Good morning, you're watching Market Cafe with me, Ankur, Mishra and Kanishka Sarkar. In next 1 hour, we'll bring you all the updates that matters to you before opening of market. But let's get started with an eye on the globe. Good morning, Kanishka. How were the US markets yesterday?
Good morning, Ankur. US markets ended on a mixed note overnight, with investors staying cautious ahead of that outcome of high-stakes US-China trade meeting, which may resume today as per reports. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average that ended flat around that 42,760 level, whereas the S&P 500 that managed to eke out gains for the second straight session, ending slightly higher at 6,006. The Nasdaq Composite, on the other hand, that led gains, rising 0.31%, driven by strength in tech names, especially Qualcomm. Focus is now shifting to key inflation readings due later this week, with both US CPI and PPI set to guide the market rates outlook.
All right, if you talk on crude front, the Brent Crude actually surpassed $67 now, and this happened because there are renewed talks between US and China, and day 2 will continue today. So on that optimism, Brent Crude traded above $67, and if you talk about WTI, that has surpassed $65. But you still look at the start of the year, the crude is down almost 10% this calendar year. And not only that, if you talk on gold front, even that paired all the gains which happened on Monday, which was trading around 33.20.
That's right, as far as crude is concerned. But let's also take a look at all the events we'll be watching out for today. In India, we have the AMPI data coming out. In the UK, jobless claims and unemployment data is something that we will be watching out for. Now, in terms of corporate action back home, we have SIAT board that is expected to mull fundraising today. Now, in terms of other events, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she's expected to chair FSDC meeting as per a report. On the other hand, globally, ECB Governing Council members are expected to speak later in the day. Apart from that, NASA and ISRO are going to launch their Axiom Mission 4.
But moving on to an important development which the whole world is watching, top US and Chinese trade officials are meeting in London for the second straight day in an attempt to diffuse rising tensions between the two economic giants. US Treasury Secretary and trade representative are sitting down with China's vice premier, while both sides have temporarily slashed tariffs. Disputes over critical minerals, technology and export controls remain. The US hope this big handshake will unlock key mineral flows from Beijing and pave the way for more negotiations. To understand what's at stake and if there will be any quick fixes to these trade cracks, let's bring in Sumita Karir. Good morning, Sumita. How should one look at the second day trade talks?
Very good morning, Ankur, to you and Kanishka as well. Yes, this is going to be the second day of trade talks. These talks began yesterday, and of course, investors are hoping that the two superpowers can actually improve their ties after a relief that was sparked by a preliminary trade deal that they signed in Geneva last month. And that has actually given way to fresh doubts that are coming in after Washington has accused Beijing of blocking exports that are critical to sectors including autos, aerospace, semiconductors, and defense. Now, remember, these talks are coming in at a very, very crucial time for both the economies, given that trade war is now showing economic impact on both the countries as well, with customs data actually shows that China's imports to the US, they have plunged by over 30% in May. So that's essentially the sharpest drop in exports that the country has seen since February 2020. That's essentially when COVID-19 pandemic broke out. And of course, on the US economy, on the jobs market, on inflation, the impact has so far been muted. However, the dollar remains under pressure. So, of course, both sides are looking at stitching up a pact and, of course, arriving at an understanding so that the economic impact can be minimized, because you do understand that policy making on tariffs that has roiled global markets, that has sparked congestion and confusion at major ports. So that is, of course, costing businesses, and of course investors are also looking forward to those talks. And of course, like you said, export controls on these critical minerals, that is going to be a key issue between both the sides for talks to smoothen out, for the issue to smoothen out between both the sides.
All right. Thank you, Sumita, for getting us all those details. But now let's also get an expert view on this. Now, Adrian Mowat, he's not very optimistic about the solid announcements in the US and China trade talks. He adds that China has the upper hand in these negotiations and is very well prepared. Let's take a look.
I'm not overly optimistic about the meeting between the US and China. The Chinese are very well prepared for the trade dispute that's in place. I don't think they're going to sort of roll over and give significant concessions, particularly around tariff levels. There may be a few token concessions with regards to non-tariff issues like restricting rare earths. As I look at capital markets, which essentially seem to have priced out any trade dispute now and have a very sort of optimistic outlook, I would tend to be a little bit more cautious about risk assets when they're taking such an optimistic view. I go back to this. The Chinese are very, very well prepared for this dispute with the US, and it's not in their interest to give concessions that are one-sided. So I think these negotiations could prove to be pretty tough.
All right, moving on. After a very public spat between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, an unlikely thaw seems to be forming. The US president said on Monday that he has no plans to terminate the government use of Starlink satellite service, which he called a good service, while brushing off the concerns raised by critics about the scope of influence of Musk's government-linked ventures. Meanwhile, Musk endorsed a social media post by Trump regarding the ongoing protests in LA.
That's right. Let's shift focus to the tech world then. Apple's WWDC 2025 keynote delivered sleek upgrades but few surprises as it unveiled a host of software features led by AI. The standouts, a major redesign called Liquid Glass in iOS 26 alongside Mac OS Tahoe and AI-powered live translation across FaceTime, messages and phone calls. Now, Apple is also integrating ChatGPT into its image playground and boosting Vision Pro with gaming and productivity tools. Now, other fun features include Apple TV's new karaoke mode and lyric translation in Apple Music. All the updates are available for developer testing now, with full public releases coming this fall. Now, let's go across and listen into what Apple CEO Tim Cook had to say from the event.
Getting ready for the release of F1. This incredible Apple original film premieres in theaters on June 27th, and we can't wait for you to see it. F1 is one of the most thrilling, high-energy movies I've ever watched. It continues our commitment to deliver the very best in entertainment, made by the world's most creative storytellers. And we're incredibly proud that Apple TV Plus has once again been ranked #1 in quality programming for 4 straight years. This is truly amazing. As you know, WWDC is a special time of year and an important moment for us to celebrate our global developer community. We believe deeply in providing developers with the newest tools and technologies to help them do their very best work. And there's no better place to do that than WWDC.
All right, to understand more on this Apple event, I have with me my colleague Sumita, who was up till late night just to give you an update what actually it means and how will it impact companies. Sumita, tell us what should one look out for this Apple event?
Absolutely, Ankur. It was a late night event. However, many analysts are not really impressed with the kind of announcements that have been made. Largely, these are design upgrades like, you guys were just talking about. It really lacked that splashy announcement that fans are really used to seeing at WWDC. And they were really betting big on analysts and investors were betting big on Apple Intelligence. Remember, that was announced last year. However, there were major upgrades to Apple's design language. It's called something like a liquid glass, and it's a pill-shaped transparent design that runs across all Apple's operating system. So, that was one big upgrade. Then the ChatGPT integration into imaging was another big upgrade. But overall, it was a significant redesign of the Apple operating system, and Apple says that its lock screen, for instance, is going to look like glass, buttons will look like glass. So that's part of your liquid glass design. Overall, analysts are finding it underwhelming, and this is essentially why the company stock also plummeted slightly a bit. It saw a bit of a correction. Remember, this is because investors are really now pressuring Apple to make changes to artificial intelligence and, of course, the strategy that it has around it, given the fact that it's been a late entrant to the AI party, whereas you have other rivals like Google, OpenAI, and, even Samsung. They are surging ahead with, their AI announcements. And many feel that some of these AI features that were announced were just about incremental. There was nothing big or, nothing really stood out from these announcements that were made. And some of these are already existing on, competitors' devices as well. So let me just take you through some of these announcements that were made aside of liquefied glass. There was, Apple Music actually gets a lyrics translation. So that's an interesting feature that's coming to iOS, the new iOS. There is Vision OS 26. It will have enterprise features and creating content. So that's going to be great for content creators. Then you do have, like I said, ChatGPT integration. You do have a new hold assistant feature for IVR calls, wherein, you'll have a live assistant in the form of AI help that is going to aid you. So overall, very lackluster event, nothing big that really came out of it. In fact, that's essentially the view that analysts are holding on Apple and the announcements that it made last night.
Okay, thank you so much, Sumita, for getting us all those updates. Been a busy day for you. Now let's move on and take a look at another tech company. Now, OpenAI, that has crossed $10 billion in annual recurring revenue just over 2 years after launching ChatGPT. And the figure includes consumer subscriptions, enterprise tools, and API usage, but it excludes Microsoft licensing deals and one-time contracts. That's nearly double last year's revenue, though the company reportedly burned through $5 billion in the same period. OpenAI now supports 500 million weekly users and 3 million paying businesses. The company is also eyeing $125 billion in revenue by 2029 as investors continue to bet on its exponential growth trajectory.
All right, moving on. Disney has finalized its full acquisition of Hulu, agreeing to pay Comcast and VC Universal an additional amount of larger than $400 million, which will complete its purchase of 33% stake in the streamlining service, based on a third-party appraisal that valued Hulu above the original $27.5 billion floor.
That's right. Another update coming from the tech world. Now, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang is bullish on Britain's AI future, calling the UK a Goldilocks circumstance for investment. Speaking alongside Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Wang praised the country's deep talent pool and thriving startups like DeepMind and Synthesia. He announced that he plans to ramp up Nvidia's investment, including a new sovereign AI industry forum and expanded GPU infrastructure through local partners. He says that UK has the perfect ecosystem. It's just missing homegrown AI infrastructure.
In a deepening standoff, California Governor Gavin Newsom says Trump is sending another 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles on the top of 2,000 already deployed over the weekend. Newsom blasted the move, calling it reckless and pointless, accusing Trump of misusing the military to fuel its own ego. Around 700 Marines have also been mobilized temporarily to protect federal property during immigration-related protest. Meanwhile, Trump says he would support arresting for allegedly obstructing federal enforcement. In response, Newsom said State Attorney General Rob Bonta are suing, calling the troop deployment illegal.
Moving on, Israeli Navy forces have seized a British-flagged aid vessel bound for Gaza carrying Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. The yacht, part of the pro-Palestinian Freedom Flotilla, was intercepted in international waters. Thunberg appeared in a pre-recorded video calling the seizure a kidnapping and urging diplomatic pressure for release. Israel dismissed the mission as a publicity stunt and confirmed that all passengers are safe and docked in Ashod for medical checks. US President Donald Trump dismissed Thunberg's claims, repeating his past criticism of the activist as angry and in need of help.
And back home, the Railway Ministry has decided to have automatic door closing facilities in coaches of all existing and new local trains for Mumbai, and this after 4 passengers died and 6 were injured when they fell from a moving overcrowded local train in Thane district. Maharashtra Minister Girish Mahajan said the state government will give rupees 5 lakh each to the kin of the deceased. The suburban railway accident near Mumbai in Thane district. We spoke to Mohammad Jamshed, the former traffic railway board. Let's listen into what he had to say.
This problem of crowding has to be sorted out, and this can only be sorted out when by even the larger one. I'm talking about not only the issues like having doors, or for that matter retrofitment of the old coaches or increasing the length of the coaches. This may provide some temporary relief, but this is not for the final relief, and therefore perhaps this is time now to have some kind of a revisit the idea of having a separate Mumbai suburban authority, a fully empowered authority away from Central and Western Railway, because there are 2 railways today which are running their own different systems. And then transit-oriented development is another theme that should be there, and this authority should become a profit and loss center where the fair rationalization can take place, where different kinds of new technology can be brought in as per the requirement. And of course, we also have to look at about 9 metro railway lines which are coming in Mumbai. 1 or 2 have already been commissioned. So a lot of this traffic, in fact, will be moving on to those metro lines. That also has to be, there should be compatibility with the suburban system and the metro lines.
All right, that's the latest coming in on the Thane train accident. But with that, it's time to take a very short breather on this edition of Market Cafe. But don't go anywhere. We'll bring you an Asia market check on the other side.
Sarkar, let's take a look how Asia Pacific markets are performing actually with the second day of trade talks between US and China. You can see Nikkei as well as Kospi are outperforming. Nikkei is up around 1% and Kospi is nearing 2% mark in the opening trade. And ever since the new president has taken over, Kospi has risen around 6-7% and around 10% in the last 1 month. But if you look at Shanghai, it is flat to positive. We're currently trading just 3 points up, and Hang Seng has actually fallen into red, flat to negative tone, just flipping between red and green. Nifty implied open, however, is showing a sign of strength, 65 points up there. So mixed kind of cues coming in from Asia, renewed enthusiasm due to second day of trade talks. But let's see how our markets open. But Nifty implied open is definitely signaling some kind of green opening. But moving on, FSDC meet is set to be held today in Mumbai, and sources have informed us that there will be a discussion on state of the economy. Remember, this meeting is happening after monetary policy had decided to cut rates, and that was more than the market expectations of 50 basis point repo rate as well as 100 basis point CRR. But the meeting will also discuss the financial stability, capital flows and inflation trends, which has been edging lower throughout the last quarter. In fact, it has fallen below the target of MPC, which is of 4%. And this meeting will not only discuss about economy, but it will also discuss systematic risks, to discuss digital frauds and CKYC, which has been awaited for a long time. And who all will attend this? This will be attended by SEBI, other regulators like IFSCA and IRDAI, whereby this discussion will happen in Reserve Bank of India, where FM is going to chair this meeting. So action will continue in Mumbai today with the FSDC meeting set to be held.
That's right. Let's also shift focus to e-commerce then. Now, Rapido, the ride-hailing player, has started onboarding restaurants in Bengaluru ahead of a late June launch, and it's coming in hot with the flat, low commission model. Now, restaurants are betting on Rapido to be a more democratic and restaurant-friendly alternative in the current to the current giants Zomato and Swiggy. Anjali Palod is now joining us with all the details.
Rapido is planning to begin its food delivery starting with Bengaluru by the end of June, and in this process they've started onboarding the restaurants. What's interesting here is the low fixed commission model that they have introduced for restaurants, in which all the orders that are below 400 rupees will have a flat commission of 25 rupees, and for all orders above 400 rupees Rapido will be charging restaurants a flat commission of 50 rupees. Now, this is much lower than what the restaurants have been paying to the other two competitors in the space, which is Swiggy and Zomato. And small restaurants especially have been bringing up the issue of rising commissions and rising costs of being listed on these platforms, and therefore a third player in the form of Rapido might give them a much needed breather. We are also gathering from sources that Rapido has advised or asked restaurants to list at least 4 items on their menu below 150 rupees on the platform. And also another issue that had come up between restaurants and these platforms was on consumer data, and we are getting to learn that Rapido has agreed in principle to share consumer data with the restaurants, and in their conversations Rapido has been attracting restaurants to list on their platform by this low commission model, as well as the big fleet or rider availability that they have through the ride-hailing platform, as well as a big existing user base in its ride-hailing services, and it is expected that they will begin these services by the end of June or first week of July.
Thanks, Anjali, for that update. But crackdown continues on quick commerce dark stores. Sources say that Blinkit has been pulled up by Maharashtra's food safety regulator for operating a dark store in Pune without the necessary food safety license. The FDA has asked company to shut the facility down immediately and submit revised documentation. This comes after a similar crackdown on Zepto's Dharavi facility last week, where expired items and fungal growth were found.
All right, then moving on, in an exclusive interaction, Anjali Palod also caught up with Flipkart's Manjari Singhal. He shares that Flipkart is seeing a strong demand shift in tier 2 and 3 cities, where consumers are increasingly leaning towards premium beauty formats, often through smaller, affordable pack sizes. Let's listen into that slice of the conversation.
They know what they want out of it. When they come to our platforms, they search for an ingredient, they search for our brand. We are seeing humongous increase in search trends when it comes to just ingredients. So we are seeing adoption happen at both ends. There are these set of customers that are wanting to move to science-backed ingredients, niacinamide, kojic acids of the world. They believe that science will solve their problem. On the other end, we have equal number of people who are wanting to stay true to their roots.
And also, if we talk about the beauty and personal care space broadly, premiumization is a trend that has been called out by many.
Sure.
And when we speak more specifically about Flipkart, I want to understand, how do you define premium for the platform? And secondly, while we have the other beauty platforms bringing in a lot of international brands, signing exclusivity partnerships, we don't see that as much on Flipkart just yet. So what's the plan on sort of, now that you've identified premiumization as a trend, how do you act on it going forward?
Sure. I think premiumization has to be coupled with democratization, and that is when it gives it scale. I'll give you an example. Korean beauty, all of us know, have heard of. A lot of us have adopted it. It's still international nature, right? The ingredients are quite international, and hence not as accessible to people. What we are doing is, and if you go deeper, these are largely ingredient-based offerings.
Right.
We are getting those ingredients in offerings by partnering with domestic brands, and making the price points far more accessible. So something that was available at, let's say, 1500, 1800 for 50 ml, that you will soon start seeing on our platform at 600, 700 rupees. And that is what makes us believe that premiumization coupled with democratization is what will get us the most growth.
And moving on, Andhra CM N. Chandrababu Naidu shares his view on Modi 3.0 government in an exclusive chat with Times Now group editor Navika Kumar. He also rates his fourth term as Andhra CM and challenges he is facing. This time, let's listen into an excerpt of that conversation.
You were with the Prime Minister Modi till 2018, and then when the special status issue created divisions, there was a very, very bitter parting of ways. When you joined back hands with Prime Minister Modi in 2024, what changed your mind and why did you decide to come back into the fold? And now with 16 members of parliament, the BJP at 240, you are a very important part of this government.
No, except special status. There is no other dispute. After that, we divided, we had some problems, that is a different issue. I was afraid of my sentiment. 2014, Congress has divided two states. As against the wishes of the people, very unscientific way. Because of that, in Andhra, Congress was, you can go through back, decades together, Congress was the alternative. Even NTR time. Even combined all of this. Both states, they lost miserably. Because of sentiment. Because that sentiment was haunting me. I was unable to prepare people also. I was able to prepare bifurcation tie. I am forced to be neutral. Telugu Desam Party was formed on the basis of Telugu community. Wherever they are, we have to serve the community. Not only Andhra Pradesh, globally, nationally. That ideology base, I stood just like rock. Equal justice, two states has to be treated at par, all philosophy. People understood. But Congress party, what they have done, they have lost. That is the biggest decision haunted me, that sentiment. Otherwise, no need to differ with them.
Today, how's your chemistry with Prime Minister Modi?
After 11 years' time, we are all watching him very closely. No other leader can do better than him, as on today. That is his credibility, track record he established. That everybody has to agree. From 10th largest economy, 4th largest economy now, we'll go to 3rd largest economy. From there onwards, there is a real fight will start 4.5 times away from us is China. 7 times away from us, America. So these are all two big fights India has to do. India is blessed. One is economic reforms. Competitive spirit has come. Entrepreneur skills have come. Second, technology, mover first advantage. Both are deadly combination. Third one, demographic dividend has come, windfall gain. Now, Indians are doing better than anybody in the world. Today, our growth is moving autopilot because of this young force. This advantage will be there up to 2047. this demographic dividend. After that, you will have a problem. Demographic disadvantage, aging problem will catch up. If you plan from now onwards smoothly, India and Indians will become inevitable for the global community for their requirements, either political governance or corporate governance.
You think Prime Minister Modi is the best
That is what
leader?
I'm saying. I have seen so many prime ministers. I have worked so many prime ministers. I was the first chief minister to promote Andhra Pradesh and also India outside.
Correct.
Before that, no chief minister used to go to outside and ask them to come and invest. For that also spirit was me. One is Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes.
Malaysia Prime Minister Mahathir. They used to go everywhere and meet people, ask them to come. That is how they used to market it. So I have done. Now Prime Minister has seen 11 years. All heads of the governments you are watching, somewhere they are having imbalance. But Narendra Modi ji is more balanced, more matured. You know how to handle globally, how to handle our economy, and how to win the elections also. These are all unique qualities.
All right, that was our Times Network's exclusive conversation with the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister. But shifting focus now, life insurers have seen decent growth in May, with SBI Life and HDFC Life leading charts with 25 to 35% premium growth year over year. However, LIC lagged all private players except ICICI Prudential Life. Varun is joining us with all the key takeaways.
Well, for the month of May, it has been a decent set of numbers for life insurance companies, wherein the total premium growth for the month of May has been around 13%. For HDFC Life, it has been 33%. SBI Life, it has been 25%. And if you look at the APE growth for overall private insurance companies, it has been 7.2% on a YY basis. Now, this is because of high base. If you look in May 2024, the overall growth was around 25.4%. So because of this high growth, the overall APE growth for this month has been a little bit low. And also for LIC, if you look, the APE growth has been reduced by around 6.6% on a YY basis. Max Financial, it has continued its strong performance with a 25% retail APE growth in the month of May. Also, if you look into financial year 2026, till date, individual AP market share of private insurance companies now stands at around 68.3%, and there is an increase of around 228 basis points on a YY basis. The market share gain has been highest for HDFC Life, which has shown an increase of around 92 basis points on a YY basis, and Axis Max Life, wherein they have shown an increase of around 123 basis points on a YY basis. Also, brokerage houses have come out with report. Now, Nuvama says that investors will keenly watch out for business growth in first half of FY25, given the high base and upcoming regulatory changes. Their top pick in the sector is HDFC Life with a price target of 850 and Max Financial with a price target of 1,540 rupees. Antique has come out with a note which says that because of high base in the first half of 26, the overall growth would be slow, but in the second half, the overall growth is expected to pick up. Although they have reduced their overall discounting assumption and also DCF by around 6 to 15%. Their best picks are HDFC Life and Max Life. They have increased the target on HDFC Life, SBI Life, ICICI Pru, Max Life, and also LIC. Thank you so much, Varun, for those details. With this, it's time to slip into a short break, but we'll get you more stocks and news on the other side.
When the stakes are high and
Welcome back to ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Kanishka, Sarkar and Ankur Mishra. And it's now time to take a look at all the stocks that we should be keeping on our radar today. Ravinder is joining us with just that list.
Well, as Wipro can be in focus, where Wipro has announced the relocation of its Middle East regional headquarters from Al Khobar to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and this is the latest to Wipro's growing presence in the region, which includes offices in Riyadh, Al Khobar, and etc. And also, the Ajim Premji Trust has sold more than 20 crore shares at 250 per share. Moving to Jana Small Finance Bank can be in focus, where bank has submitted its application to RBI seeking approval for voluntary transaction from a small finance bank to a universal bank. So back of this, Jana Finance Small Finance Bank can be in focus. Moving to Tata Power can be in focus, where Tata Power solar manufacturing arm TP Solar Limited has crossed 4 gigawatt of solar module production at its Tamil Nadu facility. And lastly, Nykaa can be in focus, where company has completed the second tranche of its remaining investment of 5 crore in Earth Rhythm Private Limited, and with this investment, companies now hold 75.83% stake in Earth Rhythm Private Limited. So back of this, Nykaa can be in focus.
Right. Moving on, Tata Consumer's annual report is out, and the key takeaway is that balanced growth is there in the core portfolio. To get more details on this, I have been joined by Snehi. Good morning. Take it away.
Well, yes. So Tata Consumer's products annual report is out, and the emphasis is on how innovation has led to their growth overall, and how their recent acquisitions have seamlessly blended into the overall business and have already become margin accretive. On the back of the annual report, Motilal Oswal has come out with its view, wherein they've reiterated their buy rating with a target price of 1,360 rupees per share. They expect a revenue, EBITDA and PAT CAGR of 8%, 13% and 20% respectively over FY25 to 27. So now here are some key takeaways from the annual report. Like you mentioned, the there's been balanced growth in the core portfolio as well. They've maintained leadership in tea and salt, expanding into health and wellness segments too. The growth businesses, which is made up by Tata Sampann and Tata Soulful, now contribute 28% of the overall sales. So good growth in these two segments as well. Sampann has posted fifth straight year of double-digit growth, and Soulful revenue is up 5 times since its acquisition in February of 2021. If you take a look at segments, tea has been muted, but salt has continued to remain strong. They believe that newer categories have gained traction and improved profitability. Now, Organic India and Capital Foods, their two recent major acquisitions, have boosted growth, margins, and have added new channels as well. If you take a look at the trade mix, modern trade has grown 18% roughly, e-commerce up 57% in FY25. If you take a look at the FY25 financials, cash flow from operations for FY25 came around 2,060 crores, which is up 6.2% on a year-on-year basis. Now, the key crux of this report is the company's emphasis on innovation. There's been a 5 times jump in innovation-led revenue since FY21, and over 150 new products have been launched over the last 4 years, which means in FY25 the company has launched 3 to 4 new products every month. So big emphasis on product innovation as well. Segmentally, tea 20% market share it holds, and it's expanding in the health and wellness portfolio. Salt revenue has grown 15% CAGR over FY20 to 25. Sampann 31% CAGR. Ready to drink beverages grew 2% in FY25, and Tata Copper has also seen 18% growth in FY25. Lastly, international business has done well. It grew 16% to 460 crores in FY25. So that's a roundup of their annual report. Key focus areas being innovation as well as the performance of new acquisitions.
All right. Thank you, Snehi, for getting us all those key takeaways from the Tata Consumer annual report. But moving on, Jindal Saw is investing $118 million in UAE and Saudi Arabia for their expansion plans in pipe manufacturing. Ashesha is joining us with all the details.
Well, yes, Jindal Saw will be in focus today on account of the capex plans that the company has announced, totaling to about 1,000 crores. First is with respect to opening a new company in Abu Dhabi, UAE. This will be done with a total investment of about 900 crores. The company said that this will translate to about $105 million, about 900 crores. And they say that the company proposes to set up a 3 lakh tons per annum capacity seamless pipe manufacturing facility in Abu Dhabi. So this is the major investment, 900 crore investment, where the company is looking to set up a new company in Abu Dhabi. Apart from this, the company is also looking to get into 2 joint ventures where the company will be having about 51% equity stake. One is with Buhor for Investment Company. Here the company will
will be investing about 85 crores. $10 million is the amount that the company has announced, which translates to about 85 crores. The company said that this is to set up helically spiral welded pipe project in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Apart from this, there's also a third joint venture company that the company is looking to get into, where the company says that they will be setting up ductile pipe project in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia yet again, with a total investment of about 25 crores. So 2 joint ventures that the company will be getting into, and 1 company that the company will be incorporating in Abu Dhabi, UAE, totaling to about 1,000 crores. So big capital investment that the company has announced, growth plans for the company, and Jindal Saw will be in focus on the back of this.
Definitely, Jindal Saw will be in focus, but moving on, and let's get few words of wisdom. On the sidelines of Morgan Stanley India Investment Forum, ET Now caught up with Chetan Ahaya to talk about India's story. While he remains constructive on India, Australia and Japan, he believes that India is insulated to global risk better than its peers. Let's listen into that slice of conversation.
India's major relative advantage is that its goods exports to GDP is just about 12%. And for rest of the region, it's in the range of like 20 to 50%. So India is relatively insulated to the extent to which its exposure to global goods trade cycle is much lower than everybody else. And at the same time, it has this structural domestic demand story, which is also much stronger than the rest of the region. And this is coming in from the fact that the government policies are very focused on pushing in investment. And if you see the trajectory of Indian government, both center plus states taken together, revenue expenditure versus capital expenditure, both the lines are moving in the right direction. Over the last 5 years, we've seen a consistent decline in revenue expenditure to GDP, and that has been taken as an opportunity by the government to increase its capital expenditure to GDP. And that's what we needed, right? We have the right demographics, but what we need is the right policy environment that is focused on boosting investment and job creation. So that government focus on boosting investment has been also sort of been a key driver of India's strength in domestic demand. And then, a factor that has been underappreciated is the strength in services exports. Now, I know at some point of time you will probably see some slowdown in services exports for India too, but to the extent to which a part of this gain in services exports growth is because of market share gain, and in the backdrop, a big expansion in the addressable market post-COVID, where there's a general perception that has been going around in countries like the US that if you can work from home, you can work from Bangalore, and that sort of led to a major expansion in the addressable market for services exports. And then India is also gaining market share in that growing addressable market. So both those factors have kept the resilience in services exports. As you saw just very last month, services exports grew by 17% on a year-on-year basis. So we think that India's story has been buffered by the structural strength in domestic demand and resilience in services exports.
Sure. But how does a divergent monetary policy path in Asia and pretty much all across versus what the US Fed is doing, does that really pose as a risk or an opportunity? Does it really create more capital flows into India?
So we think that, yes, it could have been even a constraint for Asian central banks to cut rates to the extent to which the Fed is still on hold. But I think the most important driver to a region's central banks' policy thinking is what is happening to the dollar. So in 2018, when tariffs were imposed, you had seen that dollar was rising, and even while tariffs were deflationary for the region, like it is right now, and causes a slowdown in growth, central banks were having to hold back their rate cuts until the time that the Fed started to begin thinking about taking up its own rate cuts. But in this cycle, to the extent to which the dollar has been weakening, Asian central banks have been going ahead and cutting interest rates. And just by the fact that, investors are outside of US thinking about hedging their exposure to the US by way of concerns on weakening dollar, that's actually causing further weakness in the dollar and giving some support to the capital inflow into rest of the world as well, particularly Europe and Asia.
But what about the other part of the puzzle, which is inflation? Because in your note, you've talked about as to how disinflation in Asia's core economies is something that you're penciling in or foreseeing. What's your base case for interest rate cycles in India, and how do you think that's going to play out when it comes to affecting the capital flows? Because what we're working with is another 50 bips for the rest of the calendar year. At least that's what the consensus on the street seems to be. And, it could be as steep as another 25 bips cut on Friday.
Yeah, so I think for India and the region, we are having a starting point of inflation which is relatively low. We are seeing decline in oil prices further causing disinflationary pressures. At the same time, we've seen tariffs.
All right, then time to get you some more news updates. The launch of Axiom 4 mission that was all set to carry India's second astronaut, Shubhanshu Shukla, to space has been postponed by a day due to bad weather. It is now set for liftoff tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. India time. Next up, Russia and Ukraine have begun exchanging prisoners of war under a deal reached during last week's direct peace talks in Turkey, with Moscow saying the first stage involves the return of younger soldiers. In addition to prisoners of war, the warring countries have also pledged to exchange bodies of 6,000 fallen soldiers.
Shifting our focus to India, India's active COVID-19 cases on Monday neared 6,500 mark, recording 358 new cases. Kerala continues to be the most affected states with active cases, followed by Gujarat, West Bengal and Delhi. Meanwhile, Maharashtra reported 65 new COVID-19 cases on Monday. Moving on, the legendary Indian captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni has been inducted into ICC Hall of Fame at a grand ceremony in London. The honour celebrates his extraordinary contributions to cricket and his lasting impact on the game history. Dhoni becomes the 11th Indian cricketer to be named in the list. With this, it's time to say goodbye in this edition of Market Cafe, but do watch The Market coming up next.